They done touchdown. The Saints got another one. I'm running, come out. We bugged up. Wild. Who that? 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 Who that?
Saints fans and who-dats from all over the world, it's time for Saints News Radio's Crescent City Connection with Kyle T, Barry Hirstius, Bob Rose, Remy Jones, and the rest of the crew.
First and 10, let the story begin. It's football Sunday, the Saints marching in. We went from banging our heads to them calling us ain'ts. Now it's who that said they gon' beat them Saints. First round bye, when we make the playoff, everybody hating, cause we get to take the day off. Vince and Boogie, nobody do it better. Now we on our way to our best season ever. Who that? Who that? And the Saints are marching on. Who that? Who that? Who that? And the Saints are marching on.
All right. Saints fans and who-dats from all over the world, this is Kyle T. Mosley of Saints News Radio. We are here with the Crescent City Connection panel. It is myself, Kyle T., as well as Bob Rose from the Canal Street Chronicles with me tonight. Welcome to the show, Bob. How you doing?
Thank you very much. I am hanging in there. I hope we're going to drag some of these who-dat fans off the nearest bridge and restore some hope into them tonight.
Well, you know what? It's just the first game, guys. And, you know, expecting a lot from this team at this time with all the changes, we have to be realistic. But, you know, we are who-dats, and we have to really think we were going to expect a little bit more showing from the Saints on Monday night against the Vikings. If you guys did not know, the Saints came away on Monday night in Minnesota in front of a national audience as losers. The score was 29-19. The final score showed a lot that we really need to talk about the in-between, what happened on the field. There were some execution issues that the Saints had. There were a lot of questionable penalties. There were some missed assignments as well. But, Bob, I'm glad you're here to help us break it down and try to get some understanding what to expect out of the New Orleans Saints for the rest of the 2017 season. Don't forget, the Saints are going to be facing Tom Brady and Brandon Cooks. We can't forget Brandon Cooks in this mix on Sunday afternoon in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. The Saints are going to be facing what nobody can deny after defeating the Atlanta Falcons in the Super Bowl as the greatest quarterback of all time in NFL history. Guys, this is the first time that an NFL game is going to have two quarterbacks, starting quarterbacks, with at least 10 Pro Bowl selections apiece. The first time ever. So you guys are going to be a treat to something historical, and let's see if it's going to be a great historical game for the New Orleans Saints. The last time the Saints faced Tom Brady in the Superdome, they came away victorious, and hopefully our boys in black and gold can do the same. But first, let's talk about the Vikings, man, and the game the Saints had up there on Monday night. Bob, what's your first takeaway from the game on Monday night?
My first takeaway is exactly kind of what you said to open the show, is that it's one game and let's not overreact. Now, I'm as guilty of it as the next guy. I think I tweeted out in the wee hours of the morning after the game one line only, and that was this. I said, that was an embarrassment. And admittedly, I overreacted to that. The first takeaway I have from the game itself is Minnesota looks like a darn good football team. I don't think they're as good offensively as what they showed against us, But that might very well be the best defense that Drew Brees and the Saints face on their schedule. These guys really are borderline elite defense. Again, it's only after one game, but I would take that defense on my roster any day and have confidence going into just about any kind of against any kind of offensive game plan. So that was my first take. The second take is, and we've seen it all week long, all over Saints message boards. People are already panicking and predictably calling for Sean Payton's job, calling this Drew Brees' last hurrah. Jumping off a bandwagon that had a lot of very excited fans as the preseason ends. So guys, just really settle down. It's okay. This team, I think, will regroup. Remember, when we talked about it on your show the last 2 weeks, this is a young team. So to step into the bright lights of Monday Night Football, and most of their very first game experiences against what we've already said is a very, very good defense and a very good coach in Mike Zimmer that Minnesota has. They took a beating. Let's not sugarcoat that. But I have confidence that this young group will bounce back.
Bob, and one thing that was kind of evident early on, they had a lot of fight going to them. I wasn't terribly displeased in the first quarter and a half. Okay.
Yeah.
Then after they couldn't get that second score in, and Zach Strief's injury, it looked like they got a little deflated, as a team. So they lost a little bit of fight, and going into halftime when Minnesota drove 95 yards down the field to score a touchdown was really a slap in the face. And you could see early on they were targeting Devontae Harris, man. And but I have to go back to last season as well as the season prior. What really is strange to me is the fact that Dennis Allen can see one of his players being targeted. Where's the safety help? Where's the help or someone else to be able to give that young man some support? And the same thing happened to Ken Crawley last year when he had to come and fill in, But being an NFL cornerback, it's a very unforgiving position in the NFL, right? Yeah. So you have to deal with those blows. Good. So, let's talk about what happened on the first possession of the game. The Saints were able to drive 13 plays, 56 yards, down to the 25-yard line, but then they had to kick a field goal. Bob, when I was looking at that first drive, I thought for sure the Saints were going to go for a touchdown and head into the end zone. But what happened there? Was it the penalty with Pete that stalled the drive?
The penalty was to Pete was big. And I'm with you. I really like the way that they came out. They spread the ball around, and I think we all expected this offense to do that, especially against the Viking defense. And when you're going to come in with that kind of short, focused game plan, short, quick tempo, a holding penalty like Pete gave to them, it does throw a monkey wrench into everything. But I'll tell you what I saw right after that, and hindsight's 20/20. But after the Pete penalty, I think it looked like they were just content to settle for the field goal after that and play it rather conservative. And then their game plan, their offensive game plan moving forward after that, and I know we'll talk about the pass protection in a little bit, but it seemed to be very conservative, very un-Saints-like. Settling for different things, not necessarily taking what the defense gives you. That's a little bit different. But Sean and Pete Carmichael, they didn't come out with the aggressive. We know that they chart that opening drive. I like the way that they spread the ball around. But after that, they seemed to almost go into a shell and be accepting that they weren't going to get the downfield shots, and be accepting that they aren't going to have Willie Snead. Brandon Cooks, of course, is gone. So they weren't testing the Minnesota secondary the way I'd hoped that they would coming in.
And I can get what you're meaning. The meaning about these guys being conservative, right? But not only being conservative, it looked like it was Sean Payton's old game plan being consistently inconsistent, in my opinion.
Yeah.
When you have AP, Mark Ingram, and Kamara, and you look at the final play chart, Kamara had more plays than both of those guys put together. You start to wonder, did we really have a conservative game plan going into this contest, right? So where are we? What's the identity of the New Orleans Saints? Do we have one? Even during preseason, there was no definitive identity with the team. Also, remember, the team had trouble in the preseason with Drew Brees guiding them to score touchdowns. And I think it was a consistent overflow of what we saw from preseason going into regular season. And as the professor used to always say, he had two favorite words: propensity as well as proclivity. So we saw the propensity there for the Saints to continue on the track that they were going on. And I really believe that right now, the Saints going into this game against the Patriots are going to have to be unconventional. They're going to have to be more aggressive, like you said. They're going to have to take that conservative nature off them and put some ingenuity into these plays, because a lot of the plays, man, you tell me if I'm wrong, from what I saw, it looked like plays from 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, it did. And we've all come to expect, a certain kind of consistent inconsistency out of Sean Payton.
Yeah.
But when he gets when they get their play calling into a rhythm, we know that this is one of the most difficult offenses to stop in the NFL. However, we've also seen over the years that they tend to, as the coach speak word would go, they outsmart themselves. And I can't help but wonder if that was part of the thinking here. And I'll give you an example. When I was screaming for it all game, I didn't chart every single play. My frustration got the best of me. But one of the things that I expected out of the Saints offense coming in was a lot of play action early on when Peterson was in the game. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is he's a Hall of Fame running back. Defenses still respect him immensely, and until he proves otherwise, there's no reason not to. We saw it briefly in the Texans game when the Saints saw the most action of the preseason. Mm-hmm. When Peterson was in the game and the play action faked it to him, that entire Houston front seven shifted towards the direction of that Peterson was going during the play fake. I expected that same kind of thing against the Vikings, especially early on. And please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember seeing a single play action fake to Adrian Peterson all game.
You know what? I think you're right.
Did they outsmart themselves that way?
Mm-hmm.
But and that's the kind of thing that I was thinking. And you're right. I didn't realize until after I saw the play charts after the game, or the snap counts after the game, that Kamara had gotten the most snaps out of any of the backs, which it sort of surprised me until you considered that they were definitely playing catch up in the second half. Mm-hmm. And when you're going to go, when the defense expects you to pass, you're certainly not going to have Adrian Peterson in the game at that point. And the answer is none of us know right now. They didn't even come close to establishing any kind of identity in this game. So everything going into a vital game 2 against the defending Super Bowl champions, everything offensively is still as big a question mark as it was coming into game 1. That is where my worry is.
You're right, man. We have to really be cognizant of what's going to happen in this game, because if you look at the first half, the Saints had the ball, 4 times in the first half, and we're talking about field goal, punt, end of half. 4 times. If you have the ball 4 times, and only 50% of the times you put points up on the board, and those points were only field goals, you are at a deficit starting off on the road. And you can't have a game similar to this game against the Vikings, against the Patriots, because the Patriots will take advantage of that. Now, the Patriots had it handed to them against Kansas City. I got to admit, Kansas City did a very good job, but Kansas City was aggressive, like you said, Bob. And you looked at the Patriots defense in that game, they were on their heels most of the night, man. So if the Saints can be able to take advantage of that and put them on their heels as well, I think we have a better chance versus being ultra conservative at times. Now, I know Sean Payton doesn't want to turn over the ball as much, and I think they made an effort to not put Drew in those positions to be able to have the picks early on in games like he usually would have. But I think they did a great job taking care of the ball. But are our wide receivers being considered average wide receivers? Because it didn't seem like the cornerbacks as well as those linebackers cared what the wide receivers were going to do.
No, it didn't. They absolutely played like they had zero respect for them. Even Michael Thomas, and most of us expect Thomas to take that next step into the discussion of the elite. And I still think he's going to do it, my personal opinion. But the rest of that receiving corps, and that was one of the bigger questions that we had about this offense going in, was that will the remainder of this receiving corps be able to establish themselves? I think the loss of Willie Snead this game, and certainly the next 2, because since he's suspended for the first 3 games, I think that's bigger than what many of us thought that it would be coming in, because the Saints are showing that they don't have a lot of diversity within that receiving corps, and until they prove otherwise, as Coach Dennis Green used to say, they are who we thought they were, and that's what they're not showing us a whole lot after game 1. And really, if you think about it, you said during the preseason too, they didn't show us a whole lot during the preseason.
No.
And if they continue to do that, this offense will have no choice but to be conservative because they won't have the playmakers.
Right, and you hit it right on the head. Not only playmakers on the offensive side of the ball, playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. But let's stay on offense right now. Tommy Lee Lewis shocked those guys. He was able to get past the cornerback and what's his name, Wayans. He was able to get past him for a 2-yard gain, right? Great.
Yeah.
Where was Ted Ginn? I thought he was brought in to be one of those guys that can stretch the field for us in place of Brandon Cooks. So we know Michael Thomas is not that guy to be able to stretch the field, right? We know Brandon Coleman is not that guy to stretch the field at all. So Tommy Lee Lewis, he did a great job coming in to be able to do that. But we don't have anyone else, guys, in that wide receiving core to be able to put pressure on an opposing defense's secondary. So I don't think, man, until we that we could say would give us that big bomb threat appeal that Sean Payton needs to have and Drew Brees needs to have in this offense?
And that's the question. The guy to take the proverbial top off of the defense.
Right.
Because we'll go back to Brandon Cooks, and I hate to keep going back to the guy, but he might not have been the most well-rounded receiver in the league, but that's a guy that defenses knew that if we don't account for him, he's gonna catch a 70-yard touchdown bomb, and boom, it's 7-0 Saints. Et cetera, et cetera. We saw it in the season opener last year against the Raiders.
Yeah. Was it 90?
He caught those 2 long bombs.
Yeah.
And defenses have to respect that. You said at the beginning of this segment that it didn't look like the Vikings linebackers or defensive backs had any respect for that. And it absolutely showed in the way that they played defense, and the Saints couldn't respond and take advantage of it, with the exception of the Tommy Lee Lewis play, which you have to ask the question again. Why did they bring Ted Ginn Jr. on board when we know his entire career, say what you will about the drop passes or the catch percentage, the guy will make the big play for you down the field? Where was it?
Right.
The easy answer to say to that one is, well, Drew didn't have any time to pass. You know what, guys? We've seen the Saints offensive line struggle against defensive lines before. Brees has always been able to make plays downfield. It's not necessary. It certainly helps when your quarterback has time, but when the defense respects the fact that the offense that they're going against has that playmaker there, that will at least spread the field. So you don't necessarily have to have a 9 route or a go route to be able to succeed. But if that defense that you're playing against knows that you have a player or two that will do it, that'll spread them out, therefore open up the underneath stuff. These Saints players, they have a lot of guys that can make plays underneath, but when the defense is clogged every single passing lane, where are you going to go with the ball? And that's where the problem comes in. When Drew has nowhere to go with the ball, the pressure gets on him quick, and that offense falls apart.
Right. You know, going into the Patriots game and looking at the defensive analysis as well, our defense played in my opinion, they played a very good first quarter, but we have to go back to this first play. What happened there, Bob? They only had 10 men on the field.
I don't know. It's the ghost of defensive coordinator Ryan and the hair coming back on us. Because I think it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. That was a constant problem during preseason scrimmages and preseason games, even during the regular season, was they didn't have enough players on the field. And Coach Payton and Coach Ryan would get into each other's face on more than one occasion after that. To do that, to only have 10 players on the field on your first play of the season, there is no reasonable explanation that you can give to me for that other than somebody was careless. And chances are it was more than just somebody, because you have players watching players, coaches watching players. How the heck does that happen?
Yeah, I was listening to Bobby and Deuce talk about that play on WWL today, and Deuce or Bobby brought up a good point. If Vaccaro saw they only had 10 players, and I believe Lattimore saw only 10 players on the field, Vaccaro, being a veteran, would have been the one and should have been the one to call timeout, but he did not. What he decided to do was to cover the slot receiver, and they luckily got away without being burned for a much larger play, But I'm just thinking, man, and you could tell A.J. Klein did a great job, and I have to give him kudos. He saved us on a couple of times for having touchdowns, right? But the communication is not there. And if you don't have excellent communication, especially in the defensive backfield, we're going to have a repeat of 2016, 2015, where this defensive backfield will be torched. Right now we are ailing. We don't have Delvin, right? And I don't know what was going on where we substituted PJ Williams, got him out the game and put Devontae Harris there on Diggs. Man, I'm still trying to figure that out. What was going on there? Do you know what happened with Williams? Was he injured, or did they just have more confidence in Harris?
I don't know, and that's a great question. The coaching, the entire coaching staff has been singing the praise of PJ Williams the majority of the preseason, and with good reason. He had played very well, and PJ did get beat a couple of times early, but that's going to happen. You have to have a very short memory as a cornerback, and move on. Hopefully not making the same mistake twice. But I noticed the same thing that you did. It's not that they benched PJ. For example, we barely saw Sterling Moore at all during the game.
Yeah, I thought he would have been the likely choice. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right. No, that's okay. That's a great point. I was shocked to see Devontae Harris get so many snaps as well over Sterling Moore. We knew we'd see Harris in a lot of the different nickel and dime packages, but I did not expect to see him for as many snaps as we did. I hadn't heard anything in press conferences following the game or all week long about why PJ snaps were a little bit limited. I mean, he still carried among the higher snap counts of the defensive backs. But this guy, especially with Delvin Breaux out and in number one draft choice or not, Marshawn Lattimore is still a rookie. You've got to have PJ Williams has got to be the guy to step up out of this cornerback class or cornerback core, excuse me. And I'm certainly not going to lay the blame to what the Vikings passing game did to them on PJ Williams or really any one guy outside of Devontae Harris, because communication is the key. But I'll tell you what, too, that is one of the things that has been talked about. But we've talked about it here. This is go back to the youth of the defense. These guys still need to grow together, and part of that is the communication. I'm still hoping that it would come. I completely agree with you. For the first quarter or so, the defense actually kept them in the game. The Vikings were able to move the ball, but the defense stiffened up, and we saw some nice individual effort. And you cannot say that the defense as a whole wasn't aggressive. Alex Anzalone, A.J. Klein, Marcus Williams, as far as the aggressiveness, they all come to mind. Now they pulled down a couple penalties too, so they got to curtail that a little bit. But I was excited about what I saw out of those three guys from an individual athletic standpoint and from an aggressiveness standpoint. But the coverage packages and the help over the top, that has got to change. Otherwise, we know what Sam Bradford did to this defense. I shudder to think what someone like Tom Brady or a little later on in the schedule, Aaron Rodgers is going to do. That could be downright scary.
Yeah, good point. I'm looking at the defensive statistics. A.J. Klein, he came away with 11 combined tackles. P.J. Williams had 8 combined tackles. Vaccaro 6, and Teo 6 as well. Cam Jordan had the only sack to be registered by the team. He also, that was a for sure interception. If Klein wasn't as aggressive as he was trying to get the ball too. But man, that could have put an end to that drive and a much needed toward the end of the first half. But, Rankins, he did have some flashes there. You saw a little bit of the Omnimata as well. Those guys were putting some pressure inside as well, but we didn't have a consistent enough pressure, man. And, I was just thinking, I didn't see a whole lot of Kakaha.
No, I didn't either. I think I saw that he got 15 or 16 snaps for the game. And we figured that Kakaha would be a pass rush specialist. So if he is indeed a pass rush specialist, he probably will see games where he's only going to be on the field for 15 snaps. But I'll tell you what, if you're going to limit my snaps, that means I have limited opportunity to show what I can do. And if I'm only on this team to do one thing, and that is put pressure on the quarterback, you better darn well do it. And I didn't really see that from him. I agree with you.
Right. Well, I mean, we can go over this playlist and talk about scenarios here and scenarios there, but the one number stats that we really need to pay attention to here, man, the third down efficiency for the New Orleans Saints was very below par. The Saints were only at 36%. There were 4 out of 11 on third downs. In the red zone, they were only 1 out of 5, 20%. And goal-to-goal situations, guess what our percentage was, Bob?
I didn't see the numbers, so you'll have to bring my enthusiasm down a little bit.
Well, big goose egg, 0. Goal to goal. How many times have we seen a Sean Payton team go throughout an entire game with goal to goal and do not come away on the upper end of that percentage?
Not very often. Yeah. And I'm trying the best I can to cling to the positive of things, but it's hard to remain positive when you get countered with numbers like that. Look, these guys moved the ball fairly well. They put 19 points on the board. We know that's not going to be enough. But I think 3 out of 4 of Lutz's field goals were within 30 yards, right? I don't have the exact totals, but so that tells me that you were in position to put the ball in the end zone.
Yeah, those are the 3 times.
When you come up with a big goose egg, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're not taking advantage of the situations presented to you. The team was able to drive the ball down the field. They had, a 13-play drive, another 13-play drive, and a 12-play drive. And each one of those drives resulted in field goals, as well as an 8-play drive that resulted in a field goal. And the last drive was an 8-play drive that resulted in a touchdown. So when you look at those numbers, man, you have to start to say, guys, something's got to give. Now, I'm just going to put this out there. Losing Jimmy Graham was huge to the Saints, and I understand the reasons why Sean Payton decided to trade and get that first-round pick. But when you don't have or present a big enough target that you consistently can say, I'm going to throw to this guy if we're in this particular situation. Kobe Fleener hasn't been that guy yet. Now, he did come up with the only touchdown of the game for the Saints, but ball comes anywhere in your vicinity, you need to catch the ball. Say again, if the ball comes anywhere in your vicinity, you need to catch the ball. And that's Ted's second time, even preseason, ball right there. Don't know what happened. And even Coach Gruden said, I don't know what type of route he was running. You're not really doing any favors to your quarterback if you're not going to make a better effort in your route running as well as your effort to be able to get the football, man. So I just believe this team has to be able to put a better effort out. They have to execute better, and they have to be able to really put some fight out there, because if the Dome is going to be behind you on Sunday, you've got to show your fans that you're behind them and put a better effort out all 4 quarters. We need 4 quarters of Saints football, outstanding Saints football, coming up on Sunday against Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. All right, guys.
I'm with you all.
Hey,
I'm with you there, Kyle.
Hey, what's up, Brendan? How you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm sorry I'm late. Had to be studying some tape for Western Carolina versus Gardner-Webb this Saturday, a nice in-state rivalry this weekend here for FCS football. But just listening to you speak just a little bit, I agree with you, Kyle. There's got to be a better effort on the field. I'm with you, Bob, in terms of, well, it's really hard to find the positives when you hear numbers like you did. Bob, I'll one-up you. The 3 field goals from Will Lutz after the first quarter were all under 25 yards.
Oh, wow.
Which tells me one thing is that you talked about being in the red zone, being inside the 10. Kyle, you said the end goal situations being at 0%. That's where I'm going to try to stay positive, is go, okay, yes, you couldn't get it into the end zone, but you were there. And I know that's a big thing for Saints fans. You're okay, well, why should we be positive about that? You were there, and you look at 2 plays in particular. You had a play where Breeze overthrew Tommy Lee in the corner just a little bit early in the game, and you had that whatever route that was by Ted Ginn. Josh Hill cut his route off just a little bit on, I don't know, I guess Ted was going on an in, and he had route. And it's timing. I think a lot of us underestimated how much Willie Snead meant to this team and how valuable he truly was. Given it's only a 3-game suspension, so you only have 2 more without him. But those little things are going to get fixed, I would hope. The Saints did have the lead in this game. They were up 6-3 in the second quarter. I think both of you made fantastic points that the defense really did look pretty good there in the first quarter. But when I look at the Saints to think, okay, you look at those last 3 quarters on the defensive side, and the secondary looked lost. It's a lot of things that you can fix. It's a lot of mental errors in the secondary. You couldn't get a lot of pressure up front. But with the defense playing that poorly in the last 3 quarters, if the offense gets touchdowns instead of those Will Lutz field goals under 25 yards, the Saints win the ball game. And I think that's where you have to sit and be positive is, okay, our defense looked that bad at times. They also looked kind of impressive at times. I really liked A.J. Klein, a name I don't think you guys said. I liked Alex Okafor in that game. I thought that he made some big plays at times for that team, maybe not getting a whole lot of pass rush, but he was there on the other side of Cam Jordan, making some stops in the backfield, disrupting the running game just a little bit and applying a little bit of pressure up front. I think if you're able to look at the positive and say, okay, if the Saints could have scored points instead of field goals, and you're not talking about, if the Saints could have scored points on that first 13-play, 56-yard drive that resulted in the Will Lutz 43-yard field goal, you're talking about these 13-play drives that resulted in Will Lutz 21 yards, or another one that was 8 plays, Will Lutz 24, another one that was a 20-yard field goal from Will, 12 plays, 73 yards. If you can convert those into touchdowns, and whether you're doing that through the air with Drew, whether you're a little more confident with Adrian Peterson, I think that was something that was a little interesting for me, is I think Peterson only got 1 carry inside the 10-yard line on Monday night, which I figured that Adrian's role was going to be 2 things. 1, goal line back. 2, closing out at the end of the game. I figured if AP was here to do anything, it was going to be that. So, obviously, a lot of things to work out.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
One thing that I think everybody's got to remember, it's the first week of the season, and you're still trying to find your identity, given the Saints really don't have an identity even after week 1, and you have a really difficult week 2 matchup. But if you're going to stay on the positive side, at least on the offensive side of the ball, and know on the defensive side, mental errors can be fixed, it's not bad.
Yeah, Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Hello?
Yeah, and Shaine Boyle, what's going on, Shaine? If this is my cuz, y'all. But
What's
Shaine,
up,
how you doing, Shaine? Brendan,
I'm
that was a
doing
great
good, man.
analysis. Shaine is he is a pro football player. He is a star of the AFL. He's a cornerback and punt and kick returner for many touchdowns. The Saints need to look at his tape. But Shaine, tell us, man, from a defensive perspective, Brendan brought up some good points. What did you see in the New Orleans Saints against the Vikings that would give the Saints fans some hope?
What I did see in the secondary, and what I could say by the safety play, you've seen a lot of big plays with the safeties. One thing I could say, man, just being a defensive back, you don't see the aggressiveness, at the attack of the ball. The guys kind of look like first game and, not being on pace. The secondary, the corners for that, but safeties, like I said, I think the Saints going to have a good year with the two safeties play, as the season go on with a great D-line like they got pass rushers, But, one thing I can say about the defense win games, and I hear a lot of people keep saying, about the offense, and Saints been having offense for years. It comes to a point now to where you got to rely on your defense more, So, like you said, it's time for a defense, as a defense, my understanding, to be more aggressive. And that's like getting picks. I mean, when the last time you heard the Saints secondary really being aggressive and coming up with big plays and getting picks? The last time you had that, the year one Super Bowl with Darren Sharper, and those guys. It was the ball hawk secondary. They were finishing the league in the top 10, and that would allow them, to take up for the offense. So you can't rely so much on Drew Brees' arm all the time and waiting for that offense to click. You got new faces, new tight ends, like you said, to receivers, to running backs. So you can't rely on that. So it comes to a point where the defense is going to have to step up and going to have to be the head honcho. And, when Drew Brees having an off game or the offense moving slow, we can't run the ball, we rely on a sack here, rely on those guys making plays in the backfield. That's the way I would look at it.
A.J. Klein brought up a good point in the interview. He said the cornerbacks need to cover long enough for the Saints front to be able to put more pressure on the on the quarterback. Is that what you're seeing as well? That the cornerbacks have to do a better job there?
Oh yeah, most definitely. As a corner, I always tell a lot of guys would say start up front, but also for a corner, you got to do your job. If I can cover for at least 8 or 10 seconds to help my guys get back there, that's my job. That's what I got to do. Or whatever. Like you said, if you can't cover a guy, and when you look at the game, the Saints was getting hit with a lot of back shoulder routes, curl routes, routes that should be covered. You man to man. I mean, the way I see it, the way the league plays now, if you can't be a man corner and put hands on a guy and not let him off the line easy, well, you're gonna have a long night. And no matter who you got pass rushing, because any team that you play like the Vikings that look for those short routes, it'll be a long night. Which the Saints got the Patriots coming this week. You will see more of that. You're going to see a lot of crossing routes. You will see a lot of dump routes, and those guys are going to have to be aggressive. They're going to have to put hands on them. The cooks and the receivers they play, when you play smart receivers like that, you got to be physical. You don't want to give them 2 and 3 yard routes. You don't want to play off them because that's their game. They're going to look for the dump. So, like you said, the way you put pressure on Tom Brady is by putting hands on the receivers, beating them at the line. That way your D-line can get to work and get to him. I mean, I definitely agree with it.
Shaine, and that's a good point because I saw quite a few times where Harris as well as Lattimore, but Lattimore was trying to be a little aggressive in the first half, but toward the second half, I saw them playing off around 7-8 yards. Is that normal? Is that how you would play some of these receivers?
No. I mean, the way I look at it is you got to bring your game. I mean, most guys, like I said, like playing off. I'm not a playoff guy. I'm like a in-your-face type guy. Put my hands on you, like I said. Receivers are taught to get to a spot within, we talking NFL, so 2.5 seconds. That quarterback got to have the ball in hand. If that. Depends who you're playing, right? So as a cornerback, I feel if I'm playing off, let's say it's 7 yards, like how you're saying. If you know your route tree, I'm playing off 7 yards, and a guy coming at me, and I'm sitting at 7 yards, then I take 2 steps back, now I'm at 10 yards, and he haven't broke off yet, that allows me to know this guy's going deep, he's running the post corner, or he's running the post. But if I'm in this guy's face, and I'm not allowing him to see what's open, like that, if you playing off him, you allow him to see that, okay, this linebacker blitzing, the safety moving up. You know, he get to see those things. But when you in his face, he got one thing on his mind. Okay, I know he's about to pressure me. I got to get up this jam. You know, so it's about putting pressure. You know, and plus when you're playing off 7 or 8 yards, now you're giving that quarterback an option. He see what's open also too. You know, but when you in his face and you can compete, it's all about competing. That's it. It's all about competing, getting your hands on, and just trusting in your technique. Me personally, if I got to play off, I'm gonna play off about 5 yards, if that. You know, but I was always taught not to let your cushion get eat up. So, but you know, every guy's got their term. I just feel if you're going to play off, you got to be a ball hogging cornerback. You know, if you're going to take that chance to play it off, when the ball is thrown your way, make sure you get out your break fast. Make sure you're making plays on that side. That's the way I look at it.
Good stuff. Guys, any question for Shaine?
Yeah, Shaine. Shaine, this is Bob Rose. Nice to meet you, sir. We hope you get yourself on a New Orleans Saints team very soon.
Man.
My question is this: cornerback is one of my favorite positions on the football field to watch, but I don't play it like yourself. Like you said, the way the league is set up now, teams need at least 2 or 3 good physical press corners, and I think that the Saints are going that direction with Lattimore. Crawley at his best is a good press corner, and even PJ. But obviously, we're talking about Devontae Harris and a couple blown coverages by PJ. When you were watching these guys, did you see that they, in your opinion, were they just athletically overmatched, or did you see certain technical flaws in their game that would be pretty fixable with some more film room and practice time?
Oh yeah, they it's not overmatched. I ain't see overmatched. I just seen a lot of hesitation, you know, and it's like playing cornerback. One thing I can tell you, playing cornerback, okay, if I get thrown on, like, if I'm getting thrown at, like, the guy, so he getting thrown at completion, like, back shoulder slant, you giving that up. Well, your confidence is going away now, you know, because now you're telling yourself, okay, I keep giving a route. Now I'm going to get over-aggressive. So he was getting over-aggressive. He never got in his comfort zone. He was playing, you know, from the snap of the game, like he's playing off. You could see that he was hesitating on some routes. He'll read it, but it's just, as a cornerback, like I said, you got to have a short-term memory. So I just think, you know, it being early in the season, him being like, you know, like a first-year guy, that's a stepping stone he's going through, you know. And I think he's a very good cornerback, you know. So obvious, you know, as the season goes on, I think you're going to see a lot of more great production out of him, you know. And when Bro get back, you know, that's another physical guy they got, you know, the Saints got, and that's a great corner. So, but, you know, one thing I can say is that if I'm in his shoes, I'm in his position, I mean, I will be more of an aggressive of playing my game. And that's something I think that a lot of guys don't do. They don't bring their game to the table. You know, in college, you know, you learn technique. You're going to learn if you're a press guy, you're off guy. Once you get to the NFL, it's really not mostly learning. It's what you bring to the table. You know, it's not what a coach could teach me now. This things I've been knowing since Pop Warner, from middle school to high school, you know, to college. Now when I get up here, okay, now it's my what I'm putting into it, what I'm going to bring to the table. You know, it's like study. If I'm playing the Vikings, I know Diggs probably their best receiver. He's more of a slot guy. He's a quick guy. He's not a possession guy. So how would I beat him? Well, I'm not going to beat him by playing off him. He won't short route. I'm going to beat him by playing up, knowing I got a safety on top, knowing they get my hands on him, using sideline, using technique, and it's going to be a physical game. You know, if he do catch it, if I'm on him, I'm putting the pads on him. Bump him up a few times, now he's going to know, oh, man, this guy's physical, be a long game. And that's the things I didn't really see out the secondary, you know, out of most of them. And I go back, like I said, when you played the Saints in, you know, 2009 when they won the Super Bowl, and you had Sharp and all those guys back there, you seen a physical secondary. You seen a secondary that wasn't afraid to come up and put their hands on, that wasn't afraid to, you know, challenge receivers. You got to have a challenge secondary to get your quarterback. And if your secondary one that laid back, especially in this league now where it's a passing league, you're doing guys like Rodgers, even Drew Brees. You know, that's why when a lot of guys play the Saints in playoffs, it's easy for Drew Brees to pick scene runs. So I just feel the easy way to eliminate those things is by being physical, by having confidence in yourself, by being the guy who put hands on first. That's the way I would look at it.
It sounds to me a lot as well, Shaine, is like, what's the identity? I know, Brendan, you brought it up. I brought it up earlier in the hour. When you play cornerback, and I've listened to the old guys like Dion and those guys wanted to be known as this type of cornerback. They wanted to be known as this type of guy. And what the Saints have been lacking over the past several years is the playmakers. Malcolm Jenkins was the last guy that the Saints had that was a game changer or a playmaker for the Saints, So I just hope Lattimore is someone who can be able to evolve into that type of role. And I'm forgetting about Delvin Breaux. His first year, he was that type of guy as well, a playmaker. So I want to ask you this one question, man. How did Thielen get 157 yards on the Saints, man?
What'd you say?
How did Thielen get 157 yards on the Saints? What was he doing that we need to be paying attention to as a fan? Was it just because he was being covered by a linebacker sometime, or a safety, or what was happening?
It always start on like going to game playing, man. And I don't know. To me, it looked like the Saints were playing more of a zone, like a linebacker. Sometimes it was like a linebacker would be on him, and safety supposed to be on top. But then you got to look at like what the Vikings was doing was they were taking advantage of that because they had the guys on the outside who was going deep, who was like catching those, who was getting those 10 yards. So now when your safety see that, your safety he's always gonna read from 1 to 3, 1 to 2, depends what formation we go see. The formation the Vikings was giving us is like 3 receiver set, So, and in a case like that, who I'm gonna cover? I'm gonna help my linebacker out, or I'm gonna help my corner out. Well, usually I'm gonna help my linebacker out, but it's like you said, like the corners didn't have a good game this week, so the safety is kind of in a bond to where, like you said, you run out there like with your chicken with a head cut off, because now you gotta, now you can't be too aggressive how you are, because he completing this, he completing that, but it all goes down to my preparation going to the game, knowing on third down what they got to look at, what's their favorite formation, who's checking who. And I just feel like early in the season, we got to look at a young defense. We got to look at a young secondary. But like you said, with Lattimore and Breaux coming back, when those guys put together, I think the Saints are going to have a great secondary. And I think those guys, I think the fans have a lot of excitement to be happy about, with the secondary. Once those guys get healthy, I think it's going to be like the pick sixes, and you're going to have guys that could fit into the comfort zone once all those guys get together. Right now, you've seen a young defense, you've seen a young secondary that got to come together. So by like the 4th or 5th week, the only thing you can do is say those guys bring their game, and I think they're going to take away a lot of things like you're saying. Right now, like you said, you're just going in with a preparation knowing that, okay, what the Vikings got? First game, we know they got Diggs, and that's what we thinking. But when they come in, like you said, you got a guy that's getting 157 receiving yards on us. We weren't expecting that. And what we weren't expecting for Breaux to be hurt either. We weren't expecting for the corners to play the way they did. So that just come with the game. That's how it is sometimes. But like I said, I'm always fit into where as a DB, what can I do to stop this? What can I do? What can I bring to the table? And you made a point about Deion Sanders. I had an option to work out with Deion, Patrick and Tyron and Janoris Jenkins, those guys. And what I learned, especially from Deion, like one of the tips he gave me was to play my game. I'm a press corner, and I remember we was at a camp, and I played off a guy. He pulled me to the side, he chewed me out, and he was like, this guy's faster than you? I was like, no. He was like, no, why'd you give him space? I was like, well, I wanted to try something new. He was like, well, in the heat of a moment, you don't do that. He was like, you play your game. It's not an island. The game is won at the line of scrimmage. If you could beat a guy up at the line of scrimmage, the quarterback would not look that way. And that's the way I see it, So those guys got to come into themselves. They got to come into with their confidence and bring that to the next man. Let that next man feel that vibe. And I think they're gonna be all right.
Good stuff from Shaine Boyle, cornerback, pro football player. Guys, Brendan and Bob, let's talk about one last thing here. The Saints rushing. 60 yards total is not going to cut it, guys. The Saints had a propensity, and that's for you, the professor. Every time I say that this year, he had the propensity to go to the right. Matter of fact, let's see. The Saints ran the ball 17 times to the right and only 4 times to the left. And I'm thinking behind big old Pete and Ramczyk, you had a chance to be able to put some pressure on Griffin over there, man. So why do you think the Saints made a concerted effort not to run to the left and only focus on the right, Brendan?
Well, I think obviously you had Ramczyk, who's a rookie, playing out of position just a little bit, playing on the left side. They expect him to be the right tackle. And he had a very difficult matchup all night long in Emerson Griffin. So I think that coming into the week and just preparation, I think Pete and Shaine both knew, let's not try to give this guy more pressure than he's already got. First NFL start, that's always difficult. Going up against the Pro Bowl defensive end, extremely difficult. Let's run it to our stronger side where you have Unger in the middle, you have Warford that you just spent a lot of money on, and you have a long-time vet in Zach Strief on that right side. I think it made all logical sense to run right. Now, with the statistics that you just shared, 17 times to the right side and 4 times to the left side, this is going to sound crazy, and you guys might think I am crazy. I was extremely happy to see the Saints actually ran the ball 20 times. I remember sharing a statistic here on this very radio show. I don't remember if it was last year or the year before, but the Saints' record when they ran the ball at least 20 times was tremendously in their favor.
Yeah, it's over 80% of time. 80% wins when the Saints run the ball over 30. Is it over 32 times? Something to that nature.
So great numbers right there, but you have to have balance. If you're going to continue to run right and the defense knows that, well, obviously they're going to pick up on that. I think it made sense to run right. I wish they would have ran left a little bit. Heck, I wish AP would have got more touches. I wish Ingram would have got more touches. But you said it earlier, when you're playing that far behind, it's hard to rotate those guys in, especially Adrian Peterson, who's not a great pass catcher. Running the ball to the right just made sense in that game. Now you got even more difficulties because Strief's going to miss at least a month. They re-signed Bryce Harris yesterday, if I believe, cut Adam Bighill as the corresponding move, and then brought Daniel Lasco back onto the practice squad. You might have Bryce
and they
Harris
tried out,
starting,
but they also tried out a few offensive linemen like Eric Winston, the old vet himself.
They tried out 3 linemen, Winston, and I believe 2 other guards tried out with the Saints. Dallas Thomas and Earl Watford both were in the facility today on tryouts. It's concerning. I understand the Bryce Harris signing. It really comes down to the fact that he knows the system. But from going from Zach Strief to Bryce Harris in Game 2 against the New England Patriots is a little bit of a concern. It's a little bit of a drop-off. So where are you going to run the ball then? Just the A gaps? Are you going to try the B gaps? Are you going to try to get to the C gap? I don't know. But you saw in at least the Monday night game the consistency to run to the strong side on the right. Now it's a little more, well, it can go either way because we really don't have a solidified offensive line that's going to hurt the Saints going forward.
Yeah. Well, Shaine, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. I watched the game again, and I saw opportunities for cutbacks against the Saints going to the right. And I was kind of shocked AP didn't do that. Maybe he's a little bit longer in the tooth these days, but he had a propensity of doing that in his younger days. And Mark Ingram just looked like he was just taking baby steps at times, man. Yeah. Do you think enough teams, Shaine, do not utilize the cutback against aggressive defensive?
I mean, well, you got to look at it. When I've seen Adrian Peterson out of his career, he's a guy who's known for what, like 22 carries a game, 17. About the 10th carry, that's when you see the Adrian Peterson kick in. You know, he's known for those cutbacks. He's known for zone cornerback. I think he had like 7 carries or 8 carries in the game. Mark Ingram had like 7 or 8. You know, so Mark Ingram, another guy. He's a guy who's usually the Saints to bring in like in that 3rd and 4th, and now he's about to pound it down. And we've seen like over the last 2 years how good Mark Ingram could be once you get enough carries.
Right.
And I just think the game we've seen, I think the Saints was just putting too much in Drew Brees' hand at the time. You know, it's to the point to now, the last time we've seen a balanced Saints offense, like you said, like you can obviously go back to the 2009, 2010. You know, you had the Reggie Bush, you had the Deuces. Like, you used to split those times with those guys. Reggie might get like 15 touches, you know, but it'd probably be like 10 runs and, 5 catches, and then you got them on kick return, punt return. But, when it came to running in the tackles, the cutbacks, you had Deuce. That's where I think the Saints got to utilize that with Mark Ingram, man, and Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson going to be one of those guys where he got to at least get like 17 carries or 18 carries if the Saints want to see the Adrian Peterson they seen with the Minnesota Vikings.
Right.
Because he looked for the cutbacks. That's what he do, but he haven't got his foot wet yet. 7 carries, that's not enough for an all-pro running back. I don't care who you have back there.
Right.
7 carries ain't gonna feed the running back.
Right.
He got to get his feet wet. He got to see what kind of offensive line he in front of now. It's a new offensive line, new scheme, new system. So he got to. Just as much as we all want to see the old Adrian Peterson, I think it's it's still gonna come back to the fans being patient and let Sean Payton get to what he see, and hopefully he'll see that everybody noticing that okay, we didn't run the ball. We really didn't run the ball. We split our running backs. I think all of them had. 2 of them had like 7 carries, 1 of them had 8.
Yeah, Kamara had 7, Peterson 6, as well as Ingram 6. And Ginn had 1, and Kuhn had 1.
Yeah, so it gonna come to a point where you gotta allow one of those guys to be your bruiser. One of them gonna have to be, your running back out the backfield, and one of them gonna have to be like an all-purpose back. Our all-purpose back outfield was Pierre Thomas. He used to block, he did screens, and he could ring and the tackles at times. We know Reggie Bush is more that 3rd down back, put him at slot sometimes. And we know when we had Ivory or Deuce, we know that was the running back. Let's eat the clock up. Let's get it. And when we did that, you've seen a productive offense, and you've seen running backs that is increasing. I think what we seen the last past Monday, I don't think we've seen that. So give it time, and I think we'll see it.
Yeah. Makes me wonder, that's why Kamara had more touches, Bob. Maybe he is more like Pierre Thomas in the eyes of Sean Payton, where he can do a little bit all and be there on 3rd down as well. Just putting it out there. Don't know. All right, guys. Any last thoughts about the Vikings game? And let's talk about what to expect in the Patriots game. Any last thoughts? Yeah, everybody's good?
Yeah, let's give them a mulligan and move on with our lives.
All right. Let's put it to bed. It's over. It's done. And now it's time for Tom Terrific to come into the Superdome. Man, Brendan, what do we expect to see against the Patriots?
Well, honestly, I'd be concerned if I was the Saints simply because Tom Brady, an angry Tom Brady after having a terrible performance. And if I'm not mistaken, right now he's got the worst completion percentage in football out of any quarterback. I'd be really scared having Tom Brady, an angry Tom Brady, with a really quick receiving core of Brandon Cooks. We all know the name. We all know what he's capable of. Philip Dorsett just came over in the trade between the Colts and the Patriots. You still have Amendola. It seems like they have short, speedy receivers all over the field, and after watching that tape of the Vikings game and seeing what Stephon Diggs and Thielen were able to do and get into the secondary, get yards after the catch, I'd be concerned if I was the Saints. You got some things to patch up, obviously. That's something they're going to work through throughout the week. But, man, I'm excited. And I saw the stat, and I'm sure a lot of these Saints fans have seen the stat. This is maybe one of the best quarterback matchups of all time in the regular season. There has never been a time where you had 2 quarterbacks that were Super Bowl MVPs and have been to at least 10 Pro Bowls meet in a regular season game facing each other. That's pretty exciting.
Awesome.
And you got to remember, this might be the last time you see Brady versus Breeze.
Yes.
Let's just be honest. They're both older. Brady's 40, Breeze is 39. This might be the last time you see the two of them. So enjoy it for what it is. I personally think it's going to be a little bit of a shootout. And especially if Hightower can't go for New England or if he's limited, you saw the effect that he had once he came out of the game against the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Chiefs went on that ironic 28-3 run to close out that game against New England. You saw how much that defense hurt without their leader in Hightower. So I can see the Saints take a lot of things out of that Kansas City playbook. I can expect to see a little bit more, believe it or not, out of Alvin Kamara, as he's similar to what the Chiefs have at the running back position. You saw Kareem Hunt tear them apart for almost 300 all-purpose yards. I see a lot of that in the Saints' future. Obviously, I think Kamara is the guy in the future. I just expect a shootout, borderline shootout.
Interesting.
But I expect the Saints defense to be better than they were against Minnesota. It can't be much worse. Hopefully Cam can get a little bit of production from someone else on the line. You look at some of the tape back, and Deuce Wyndham sharing some of that tape back on Twitter. For the Saints fans that don't follow him, he's definitely a must-follow for all things Saints-related. He shared so much tape of how frustrating a day it could have been for Cam Jordan, and it was for Cam Jordan, not because he didn't play well, but simply because he didn't have the help he needed. And we've been saying it for years. If Cam had someone across from him that was decent at getting to the rusher, this team would look a lot different. Expect the Saints to clean it up, but expect a great quarterback matchup, and just savor it because it's one you might never see again.
Yeah, definitely. Bob, what are your thoughts about the Saints offense? What should they be targeting?
Brendan hit the nail on the head when he mentioned Kamara. I saw what Kareem Hunt did to that Patriots defense too, and that New England defense is pretty athletically limited in their front seven, especially if Dante Hightower can't go. I really like Trey Flowers as an edge rusher, and he picked up a couple sacks against Kansas City. But I think what we're going to see out of the Saints offensive line, pass blocking, we're going to see what we saw early in the Minnesota game. Expect to see some max protects with only a handful of receivers into it, a few receivers into a pattern. They're going to use a back or maybe even a tight end to chip and help one of those offensive tackles probably on the right side, but wherever Trey Flowers lines up, and quick hitters. And that's where you're going to see Kamara come into play. We'll see a lot of slants and over-the-shoulder play or back shoulder plays from Michael Thomas, I think. He has got to be more involved in the game plan, guys. If this is your number one wide receiver, then 5 catches for 45 yards like he had against the Vikings, that's going to get you a loss every time. So I expect Michael Thomas to be a lot more involved in the game plan. And Kamara's the guy. Kamara's the guy is the running back. I think he's a potential three down guy. You got to use Adrian Peterson around your goal line, especially once you get the Patriots tired, because I think we all expect a shootout or at least a higher scoring game, from these two offenses, especially after suspect defensive performances from each of them. When you have two first ballot all-time Hall of Fame guys, everybody's going to expect a shootout. So use your weapons. Sean Payton, Pete Carmichael, use your weapons. You have Kamara, you have Michael Thomas. Make him defend Ted Ginn Jr. down the field. Spread out that defense because they do have a pretty capable secondary. And if you spread them out and show that you're willing to go deep on them early, that's going to open everything up underneath. Kyle, you said it earlier when Kobe Fleener had himself a pretty good game, especially down the seam routes against Minnesota. Expect to see that again. we keep hearing, expect to see a pissed off Tom Brady and a pissed off Bill Belichick. And yeah, we're gonna, and history shows what we'll see out of the Patriots from that. But these Saints are a prideful bunch too. Sean Payton and Bill Belichick both come from the Bill Parcells coaching tree, which is big egos and you take everything personally. Payton and Breeze want to win this game every bit as badly as Belichick and Brady, and they know how important it is. It's your home opener. You have a young team that, maybe, like Shaine pointed out earlier, younger guys, you tend to be a little bit inconsistent with your confidence. So these guys are a bit shaken after what happened against Minnesota. Come out firing on all cylinders against this Patriot team. Get that Saint crowd behind them early, and you just be aggressive and play Saints football.
Definitely. We need them to be aggressive. We do not need to have another home opener to go winless in the books. I think this is like the third year in a row for home openers that would have gone down the tubes as well. Shaine, let's talk about the defense, man. Playing Tom Brady, what should the Saints defense game plan for?
The game plan should be this: how the Chiefs give it to them, and how you beat them. Like I said, with Cook, with Edelman, these receivers they have, none of them are physical receivers to what jump ball receivers, right? If you play off these guys and you allow Tom Brady to get his dumps off, his screens, what the Patriots like doing, the quick passes, what the Patriots like doing. Once you get that, then you will start seeing the double routes, what the Patriots love doing. The slanting goals, the out and up, and that's when the Patriots become more threats. Once they get you to where you're playing the game, and then you see the draws, and you see a lot of the Tom Brady, the Belichick calls or whatever. You want to get them from out that. What the Chiefs did, that was great, and this is what I feel the Saints, who's got to be the impact player for the New Orleans Saints, got to be the safety player. Carl got to have a great game because you got to lock up the tight ends. If you stop Gronk from going up the seams, and if you have an off game like everybody did, everybody lock him up, that made the outside guys' job so easy. Because now it's like, okay, we got the seam route covered with the tight end up the seam. We know that's their main, that's they threat in the end zone. That's their big down, third down guy. So what's next? We get up, we press these guys, we take time out of the game. And if you got time, if you got one of the best tight ends to play and one of the best quarterbacks to play can't connect, you're in good position. So once again, it'll come down to playing your game, being physical at the point. If Gronk do catch the ball, you got 11 hats on him, hitting him, being physical.
Yeah.
Once the secondary come involved, once the secondary get their confidence in each other, knowing that. If I'm a corner, I could get aggressive knowing that I got Ricardo over me, that he's going to be there for me, if I do get beat. Once they see that and they start to trust in one another, you're going to see the sacks from the D-line. You're going to see the pressure. And the way to beat Tom Brady is to allow him to hold the ball. If you're getting the ball out quick, you will have a long day. So you got to, you got to become a man cover team instead of cover 3 or cover 2. You got to be more of a blanket. You got to, get the Patriots to where it's, a lot of 3rd and 10s and not 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. You want them to go for the long passes because they never been a team, and history shows they never been a team to go deep like that except when they had one player. That was Randy Moss. The only Patriot receiver you really seen to really take them deep like that. Right. Everybody else, the Wes Welker was just guys that catch these dumps, they take it here and there. And that's how the offense is built. So I figure if the Saints come with a strong scheme of just we're gonna do what we do, we're gonna let our D-line get loose, secondary, and we're gonna start with you. And we're gonna start with Ricardo being very physical at attack against Grunt, locking them up, win that matchup, and tell everybody in the secondary, do your job when you win your matchup. Once you do your job, win your matchup, this game is gonna be. I don't see a shutout. I really see the Saints just beating them like. I see a 24-10. I don't see the Patriots putting them at the most points because I'm going to say the Patriots defense is a zone team. That's the wrong thing to do against the Drew Brees. Patriots never been a man team. The Saints is known for a man team. The Saints is known for blitzing. Now, you ain't seen a lot of blitz against the Vikings. I want to see the Saints let loose. I want to see them go after Tom Brady, make him uncomfortable. You in the dome, the game opener, it's going to be loud. It's going to be crunk. So take advantage of it. Go at them. You know, make him have to take those shots with them. If they do that, I see the Saints winning like 24-10 or something. 24-10. I don't really see a shootout. I see the Saints defense coming alive. I see Drew Brees doing what he do. I'm not gonna say Tom gonna have a off game. You know, I think he's gonna have a good game. But you know, I think if the Saints get 2 or 3 turnovers out of this game, they'll be in good shape. Because I know, like he said made a good point earlier. Like you gotta piss off Tom Brady. Well, that's what I know. You gotta piss off Drew Brees, who's always underrated, who always behind the seat of a Tom Brady or Rodgers, who don't get enough credit. So imagine how bad he wants this. I know he wants this more than anything. So
Good
I know
point.
if his defense come alive and can get those in and outs, I know Drew Brees will look to put up like 45 points on Patriots. You know, so I see the Saints winning this one, and I see them winning it like by 2 touchdowns. So at the end of the day, I'm a defensive guy, and I always see defense win games. So I'm looking for the defense to come out and just be physical and give Drew Brees enough time to get the ball. And I just see on the other side, the Patriots play a zone, their zone team. The way you beat a zone team is about dumping and doing seam routes. That fit right in the Saints' hand. So, you know, only time to tell.
All right, man. Good analysis, Shaine. Appreciate it. So Shaine is on record 24-10. What about you, Brendan? How do you see the outcome of this game?
Like I said, I'd like to think it's going to be a borderline shootout. So I'm going to go something along the lines of, let's say 35-31. We'll be optimistic and say the Saints' first home game ends up going in their favor.
All right. And what about you, Mr. Rose?
I had this game circled as a win for the Saints since the schedule came out.
Really?
Because of the timing, the home opener. I have liked this team from the start. I can see the Saints getting in a higher scoring game. I agree with Shaine. They have to put a lot of pressure on Tom Brady. Look at the teams that have beaten Tom Brady in the past, the styles. The Broncos and their styles of defenses, the Giants in the 2 Super Bowls, even Atlanta, when Atlanta had them on the ropes in the first half last year, what did they do? They pressured Tom Brady up the middle, and they roughed up those receivers and at least contested every single throw. And I could see that kind of potential coming in. That's where Sheldon Rankins and David Onyemata have to come up big. Even if they don't get stacks, they have to get quick pressures. And like Shaine pointed out with Marshawn Lattimore, Devontae Harris, and P.J. Williams, they have to get in the faces of these smaller receivers and let Vaccaro concentrate on Gronkowski, and of course he's going to need some a helping hand from Anzalone and Klein. So I like the matchup. I do. I could see the Saints winning this one 31-27.
All right, 31-27. I like it. I like what I hear from you guys. I got the Saints 38-31, to be honest with you, on that end. Kind of similar to you, Brendan. But, Shaine, I know you see it a little bit differently, a little bit lower scoring affair. Might be a defensive affair, as you put it. All right, guys. Saints are going into this one. They can't go away with a loss. Both of these teams are going to be fighting for the chance not to be 0-2. So, and you got two, like you said, you got 2 pissed off excellent coaching minds, and you got 2 pissed off quarterbacks there, and these guys are going to be ready to give it all they got. Let's make sure it's going to be a very entertaining game on Sunday for the home crowd in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. All right, guys. Before we end, let's remember Coach Rick Gaille in our prayers. Coach is starting his treatment for cancer, his fight against cancer, and that's why he's not with us tonight. Coach, you're in our prayers. We're thinking about you. The Cleveland Indians, they set a American League record today with 21 straight wins. Wow. In baseball. And, here in Houston, the Astros are looking at them because the Astros for most of the year had the lead in the league, and now they're looking up at the Cleveland Indians with this 21-game win streak. So it's going to be very interesting to see if the Astros and Cleveland get to play one another in the AL Championship. And don't forget, this weekend, big fight in Vegas. We got Triple G against the little redhead Canelo. So we know what Floyd Mayweather did to Canelo, and I just don't see him winning against Triple G, in my opinion. But you never know. The kid can punch as well, so it should be a very entertaining fight. And if you guys missed it, Sloane Stephens won the U.S. Open. Why is that significant? Because she's the first American woman, African American woman, other than the name of Williams, to win the Open. And if you guys did not know this, Richard Williams, her father, the Williams's father, is from Louisiana. And get this, Sloane Stephens's father, he played in the NFL with Bobby Hebert. He also is from Louisiana. So we got some Louisiana blood in this championship lineage there, guys.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's pretty good. Now,
Nice.
Shaine.
We might do everyone in the football world, but we'll take over the tennis world.
Yeah, we got to do it, man. We got to do it. Let's take over tennis, golf, everything, man. So it should be very entertaining. We're going to be back next week on the air at 8 p.m. on next Wednesday. We should have a full crew at that particular time. Barry will be back with us at that time as well. Shaine, how can people follow you on Twitter and social media?
Just follow me in. Just type my name in. Shaine Boyle, Shaine, last name Boyle -4, and for Instagram, for Twitter, Facebook.
Guys, y'all need to check Shaine out. I know I'm biased because that's my blood, that's my cuz, but if you look at his workouts with Patrick Peterson, Tyrann Mathieu on YouTube, some of his game footage went in from the AFL. And how many touchdowns did you score with the AFL, guys?
Last year, I played in 8 games. My first 3 touches on kick return, I ran back for a touchdown.
Wow.
I had a total of 6 touchdowns because I had 1 interception for a touchdown, and I had the last 2 came on kickoff, running down, and a guy stripped it. I was there to pick it up, so I got 2 like that. So I had a total of 6 touchdowns.
All right. Coach Payton, I know you listen to us from time to time. You won't admit it, but take a look at his tape. Shaine Boyle. Shaine Boyle is the man. We need him. We need some spark on special teams. As Coach Gaille, we need to have our special teams to be special. Brendan Boylan, how can they follow you on social media?
Everything's the same. It's at BT Boylan, BTBoylan, and make sure to check out my own radio show talking about all things sports. It's The Butler's Pantry, Tuesdays and Thursdays on your ride home. Well, maybe not your guys' ride home. You guys are still at work. It's 4 o'clock Eastern Time, 3 o'clock Central Time. That's on WGWG.org, and follow that on Twitter. It's at BB Butler's Pantry.
All right, BB. And Bob Rose, Kyle, can we follow you on social media as well as your writings on Canal Street Chronicles?
Yeah, I would be honored if you followed me, folks. You can follow my work individually. My Twitter handle is Bobby R2613, BOBBYR 2613. Like Kyle said, I work and write for the Canal Street Chronicles, and they, we have a lot of great writers there. Brendan pointed out, Mr. Wyndham's work. We have a great editor in John Hendricks. We put out multiple Saints-related pieces per week, and Canal Street Chronicles can be followed at Saints CSC, or you can follow me and Canal Street Chronicles on Facebook.
All right. And you can follow Saints News on the web at Saints News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. It's always at Saints News, and you can check out our two websites. www.saintsnews.net gives you all of the latest Saints news from across the web, from various sources, as well as you can check out Barry Hirstius as well as his featured articles on saintsnewsnetwork.com. And you can also check out all of the podcasts that are being thrown down in the Who Dat Nation at saintspodcasts.com. That's podcast with an S on the end. That is a part of our new network website, so check that out as well. This is Kyle T. Mosley with Saints News Radio. Hey guys, keep praying for our families in Texas, Louisiana, as well as in Florida and in the Caribbean as well. Don't forget them. The devastation from these hurricanes. If you haven't given, give. If you can be able to just lend a helping hand, lend it. We need it. People need it. Our communities need it. We need to band together and come together as one. This is Kyle T. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Brendan. Thank you, Shaine. Let's have a good time against the Patriots in the Superdome on Sunday. And let's come back with a win, guys. Who dat, baby? Take care.